Welcome to the talk show Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. The goal of this show is to provide a learning experience to people of all ages, with guests from various fields in academics, a wide range of industries, and insight into the many forms of art, athletics, and entertainment. We hope you enjoy the show. Singer Mario Bonds will be our guest today. Mario will talk about overcoming adversity as a blind singer. He will also talk about his experience as a contestant on American Idol.
Mario Bonds, welcome to Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. I'm delighted to have gotten the invitation and really excited to sit and have a conversation with you today.
Oh, thanks. We're very excited to have you here today. Mario, what can you tell us about the degenerative eye disease that you had since birth?
Very interesting. So morning glory syndrome is a very rare eye disease, as you just said, but I have the rarest form of it in the sense that I have it in both eyes. That is that a lot of subjects that have morning glory syndrome end up having it in one eye, so they're able to go on and do things like, experience the rites of passage, like getting a driver's license, etc. But I have it in both eyes, and so that ended up causing me to go blind in my right eye at age 5, and then blind in my left eye at age 9, at which point I was obviously rendered totally blind.
Sure. And just you've accomplished so much. And it seems, based on all that you keep doing, that you're just getting started. But before we get into music and even more, I know you're a true believer that pretty much technology is the key for so many things, but especially for blind people. So how did you use technology in your full-time job?
Well, honestly, I think technology really was the difference between the sky being the limit and whether or not I, as a blind person, would just be selling lottery tickets or not, right? So in using technology afforded from a professional perspective, in and out of Hollywood, technology allowed me the ability right out of college to be the manager of a technology help desk, where I was in charge of about 15 people, and I was in charge of tasking them and following their task and what they were doing. I was also in charge of timekeeping, right? And also finalizing their paychecks. Now, there's a lot of things to be said that I could understand why sociologically some people would have been afraid of this new blind kid on the block who's now in charge of making sure that the paycheck was right. But using assistive technology specifically for me as a screen reader, a screen reader is a piece of software that converts all text that is displayed on the computer screen into voice. So once a blind person is trained, do a series of key combinations, control X does this or control Y does that, we can pretty much do everything that that sighted individuals can do just by using the mouse. We can do pretty much most functions, granted that a software is developed in an accessible way that'll make it work with the screen reading or technology or assistive technology. So this is one of the examples of one of the things I've been able to do, but we can independently do things like word process, right? Search the internet, use social media, right? Even independently, when we talk about technology, no one helped me get set up for meeting you today, right? I used my Mac system myself. I went to my email, I located the Zoom link, I got in, I was able to make sure that a mode on the Mac I'm using called center stage was activated to make sure that it forces me to stay centered, so I don't have to call someone to say, hey, gee, how does my positioning look, right? So technology really, again, as I said before, it's that difference between the sky being the limit and whether or not we would be having a much shorter list of options out there.
Well, that's so amazing, but it's second nature to you. So what I'm hearing, I'm not totally understanding, because when I say, when a sighted person says, so I opened my email, that means one thing to many people. But yeah. How did you open your email? How do you know where to click? How do those things work?
Well, interesting. So I'm using a Mac, and the Mac has a built-in screen reader called VoiceOver. And so when I turned on my Mac, VoiceOver Talks, it told me that I was at the window to enter my password. And once I was in the system, because I've been trained and I'm familiar with the system, I knew that if I hit, a certain command, which in this context, I use the caps lock on and the letter D to go to the dock. And I knew if I hit the letter M for male, it would read to me male, and I could hit enter. And then once I hit enter to go into the mail app, I was able to use my arrow keys to arrow around and a few other special commands to locate the email I needed to access the Zoom link. And then once I found the email, I used the arrow keys until the system read the Zoom link to me. Press enter, open Zoom, and again, Zoom has been built in an accessible way so that the code is compliant, so that it's compatible and will speak to VoiceOver. I'm able to navigate it. So that's the other piece of what I do, is that there are federal laws, right, that are really important. We have the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and in the federal space we have Section 508. Those laws are set in forth to make sure that when systems are designed, they are made accessible so that people like me can independently do things like order food or read our email or get into Zoom links to be able to talk to Mark.
Beyond incredible, truly. And
yeah,
I'm guessing it's worlds away from 5, 10, maybe even 3 years ago. So the fact that they have this kind of technology is just beyond incredible and so wonderful. I'm so happy that you got trained in it. I'm so elated that you're able to use it so easily, and I'm hoping other people will be trained, who need it as well. So that's the technical, no pun intended, side of Mario Bonds. But there's so much more to you, obviously. When did you first realize that you had, let's just call it, an exceptional singing voice?
Well, it's funny. My first claim to what I would say musical non-fame, because I wasn't famous at all at this point when I jumped into music, was when I lost my vision and I couldn't draw anymore. Before I went blind, I was able to draw very well, right? I was winning awards and drawing replicas of anything, you name it. And then so I went blind and I was interested in the piano. So I learned how to play the piano, and I got accepted at a performing arts high school, speeding forward here. And I'll say at home, my life was, my childhood was marred by a lot of abuse, destitution, homelessness, you name it. But music and education was my escape. And it's interesting that I discovered songwriting. And that's when, towards my 12th grade year of high school into my college days, I was a piano major at the high school, so I wasn't doing vocal, but I noticed that when I sung, that it gave people an experience. And I thought to myself, not for what most entertainers think of it, I thought of, gee, this gives me purpose, because there's no greater purpose to have than being of service to other people. And if my voice and my writing can give someone else escapism for them to dare to hang on, then I want to do this every day. So that's when I discovered that I had the ability to emote, right? And I wanted to do dance music, but and a lot of things I did, I always got stuck doing ballads. And so I accepted my calling, if you will. And so that's when I discovered that music had healing powers, and so did songwriting. So that's where it was birthed.
Well, that's incredible, because music transcends all. But I've had several writers on the show, musical writers of shows and whatnot. And I've asked them this question. I get different answers, and I think that I'm going to get a very different answer from you. How do you feel when you hear somebody play or sing a song that you composed?
Oh my God. I had the most magical experience being able to experience that. I wrote a song called Steel. My first album is it's a pop inspirational album where, it highlights anti-bullying and has a lot of inspirational self empowerment songs on it. And I wrote a song on there called Steel, Steel, because, if you think of steel, steel, you can do a lot of things to it. You can melt it down, you can even bend it. But one thing, it's a substance that can't be destroyed, right? Mm-hmm. And my brother thought it was such a powerful song that he's the music director of the music department at Eastern's High School, which was a renowned high school in Washington, D.C. He took that song, did a choral arrangement to it, and the high school chorus would sing that song as their graduation song for 3 years straight. And the first time I heard an entire band play Steel with these kids and the kid singing my song and the kid that was singing the lead and the whole thing. It was an out of body experience. It was the biggest gift I've ever experienced. So I can say it's a really out of body experience being able to experience that. So I haven't stopped thanking my brother for allowing me to experience such a magical moment. In fact, this is pretty funny. My grandmother was at the show, and I'm sitting there and I'm crying because of the show, and my grandmother turns around and she's tapping my shoulder and she goes, "Wow, you wrote that? You wrote that?" And it was such a moment for me that I'm thinking, "Grandma, shut up."
Yeah. We can talk about that later, Grandma. Let me listen.
Yes, exactly. It's like, it was that much of a moment that I was like, "Grandma, don't steal it now. Shut it."
Wow. Well, I'm so glad you got to experience that, and I'm sure your brother and the students certainly thank you as much as you want to thank them. So you and it's so interesting, the way you said, yeah, so I picked up the piano, then I went to a musical high school. I mean, and you qualified it by saying, I know I'm speeding up a little bit, but it's amazing that when you set your mind to something, you just only know one speed, and that's very fast and straight ahead.
Yeah, because I think about that in the context of, like I said, I've done motivational speaking and inspirational music. That's always going to be me. That's who I am through and through. But I'm a songwriter through and through, and I've had this challenge by many people for for 10 years. I say, well, when are you going to do some R&B? When are you going to do some R&B? You have such an emotional voice and et cetera. And I'm always a message guy. I prefer music to be a message. So I'm finally doing R&B for a second, right? So I have my first R&B record that's being single that's being released in July, and it's a song that's simply enough called Chocolate. That makes me laugh every time I talk about it. It's a song that's simply called Chocolate, but because I'm a message guy, I was bullied for being chocolate as a kid, Mark. Right? I was bullied for that. And it's funny that, as a teenager and as an adult, right, it's something that it's one of the number one things that people do find attractive about me. But I had to find peace within myself as a person who couldn't see myself to be okay in the skin that I've been assigned to be in. And so I think this trip into R&B has been a really exciting time for me to play with lyrics and write a song from a blind guy's perspective to celebrate my own beauty, right? So that's why I'm so excited about songwriting and being able to take trips into different genres.
Outstanding. And when I love you keep talking about music. So I don't think I've ever missed an American Idol, America's Got Talent, The Voice. I just love those shows. But I have to tell you, there's two different Marios, and I'm kind of just got to meet you today, and I'm so proud of you because the clip that I saw when you did not get accepted to go further into American Idol was a very small clip of a defeated young man.
Yes.
And you are the polar opposite of that. Like, you're like Spider-Man before he got bit by the spider. And before he got bitten by the spider. So just incredible.
And I'll tell you, that was an interesting experience because when I auditioned for American Idol, right, song choice is everything, but you get confused when you find out that they let a lot of people through that didn't. I learned through that process, especially through the behind the scenes, that they are really after story exploitation. It has to be a TV show, right?
Right.
Then talent comes behind it. So they're after story exploitation at that particular point. And it was one of those things, the love that I got from the public, from that particular, because there are a lot of greats that were rejected from American Idol, right? And the love that I got from the public really, really, really helped me, because you think about this, I was very, very, very defeated. Now, at this point, Paul Kreider is my agent, my performance agent. We've been, he's been booking things from motivational speaking and performance for years, right? And I'm a person of some degree of faith. And at that point, my spirit had been shaken. I had forgotten that, wait a minute, guy, you've been inspiring people and singing for years. A rejection on American Idol, and you suddenly forget that you have a gift. Mm-hmm. You suddenly forget that you've been in this amazing position to inspire people, to share your talent with the world. And the love that I got on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, where people were outraged to say, why would they tease us with Mario? And what was wrong with his audition? That helped put me back together. And then also realizing that, yeah, Paul Kreider's been doing a lot of stuff for you for years, sir. Get back. And it's funny because after that audition, after that rejection, I had a performance. I had to be on stage 2 days later in front of 1,000 people in Arizona after that rejection. So, of course, once I got my act together, I went on stage and I said, you know what, we're going to do some Mariah Carey whistle registry notes all over this performance. Right? So we're gonna stick it to them. You know what I mean?
Right, definitely.
But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it was, I got back to being who I really am, despite the rejection of, say, a stage like that or the expectation of something like that.
Well, it's kind of stick to itness is just incredible. And that's what I honestly like to highlight on the show. So you have this, you get back on the proverbial horse. And how did you end up getting involved with, I think, season 2 of the Glee project?
And that's the thing that came before American Idol. You know what I mean? And it was like, so it's one of those things in the toolbox that you were on, you were casted for that. The country took you seriously. Now that was interesting because in order to get on that show, you had to fit 3 criteria. You had to be able to sing, you had to be able to act, and you had to be able to dance. Now, dancing was not something that they originally put in the context of a blind person, and quite frankly, neither did I. It's the idea that a totally blind person, you wonder whether is this person going to dance or they're going to look like they're having a sophisticated standing seizure. You just never know, right? But I was ambitious, Mark. And that's one thing that as disabled individuals, that are not looking for handouts, but, looking for a hand up. In that audition for the Glee project, for the dancing part, I was convinced that they were just trying to say, oh, yeah, we're checking a box. We care about the ADA. And look, we had a few people in wheelchairs and a few blind people audition, but unfortunately, they didn't make it. Goodbye. But they had a professional choreographer teach me and another blind contestant who was there what was supposed to be the dance, right? That was to be auditioned. And it was 5% of the dance, the simple step forward, step back, put your hand in the air, clap. That wasn't really the dance. And then when someone told me that, hey, they didn't really teach you guys the dance, I sought out another contestant that I had been friendly with at that point, asked him, this could have been a gamble because he could have taught me some crazy stuff, but he taught me the real dance, the spins, the dips, and I practiced all night long so that the next day when it was time for the cast to audition the dance and for them to decide who would be cut and who would be moving on to the next round of finalists, this blind guy did the entire dance in step at the same time as everyone else, and it blew them away. Oh, sure. So that it kept me in the number, and 80,000 people auditioned for that show. They chose 7 boys and 7 girls, and this blind guy was in because of that ambition and because of, this is important, because of my thirst to destroy diminished expectations.
I need you to say that again because that's liquid gold. And
because of my thirst to destroy diminished expectations.
That's unbelievable because perseverance is so important and so lacking in many of today's youth. I taught for over 30 years and I'm just beyond excited about the things you just said. And a lot of my show is the story behind the glory, what you just gave us. And I know you do motivational speaking, and I think you have a new album coming out, don't you?
I do. The new album will be out in the fall, but on July 7th will be the first single release from it. And again, it's my parlay into R&B, and that's the song called Chocolate that'll be out on July 7th. In fact, I just finished recording the music video for it on Friday. I just finished recording the music video for it on June 15th, and it was nerve-wracking, right? It's a lot being a professional artist, especially a blind one, when people are telling you that, hey, we'll do this and look this way and keep it going. It's just kind of like, it's a lot of work, but I think we have some gold, again, for a blind guy that can't see himself to dare say, you know what? I'm beautiful, and you guys are going to think I'm beautiful too. That's why I'm really excited about this parlay into R&B and Chocolate.
I think that's phenomenal stuff, but I have to close with this. I need you to talk to me about your passion for and your participation in any kind of anti-bullying movement.
My biggest passion outside of the arts is my anti-bullying movement that I started called I Am Human Too. Now, that is a movement I started in 2020 after the release of the anti-bullying anthem Human. I, as a blind person, I look at the imagery like this. None of us chose to be here. None of us called ourselves into existence. But one of the things that the song Human talks about is how we all are human and we all bleed and we all dream. But one of the most important lines from that song says, "Sometimes I get scared and my eyes do cry tears, but you could dry my eyes if you act like I'm human." That's all we all want, is to be treated and seen as human.
Very powerful, and what a great, amazing life lesson and perseverance. So, Mario Bonds, I can't thank you enough for joining us today and sharing your incredible journey for overcoming adversity and working even harder towards success. So, first of all, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Mark, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate you sharing your platform with me.
Absolutely. And just, of course, to the viewers, don't forget to watch us on E360 TV, available on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. EST, available on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire. Remember to follow us on social media, Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and, of course, our YouTube channel. So please subscribe. So, Mario, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Mark. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. To contact Marc, email him at info@lifestorieswithmarchoberman.com or visit him on social media through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Thank you for watching Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.